Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Gridiron Uncensored podcast. And it's the usual crew again. Brendan, myself, you got Trevor and Blake. We're doing our grades on the 2023 season, running through those. We changed up a little bit because we can do that. It's our own damn show. We can change when we want to. So now we're just going to hit the entire conference instead of going by divisions. Well, I mean, hell, it works great for the ACC, which we're hitting this week because they got rid of divisions anyway. So we're just going to go run through the entire, 14 teams plus Notre Dame because they're weird. They decide they don't want to be normal and join a conference, even though they might have to at some point. But again, that's another topic for another day. So, boys, ACC final grades for the 2023 season. Really, I'd say a sloppy conference. Obviously Florida State was the cream of the crop this year. Louisville was a strange bird, pun intended. NC State, funky. Virginia Tech had periods where they came on late, but they would still drop a game here and there. Georgia Tech, and when you look at the standings, I mean, look at them. They beat Clemson. What the hell is going on? So let's get into these, and we're going to go and start worst to first. That's, our MO. We want to highlight the bad teams first and get them out of the way. So Wake Forest, you're on deck, baby. RIP. It was rough. Over under 6.5. They finished with the 102nd ranked total offense and the 74th defense. Not great, Bob. 4-8 total on the season. They were 1-7 in conference play. Clausen been their coach for a few years now. He's had some good seasons, got bowl games. But they went, again, 4-8. The expectation was at least to make a bowl game with their schedule. But then again, they lost Sam Hartman in the transfer portal. So really, he led that team, a lot. And we had big expectations from Sam Hartman, or at least I did. I think Blake did. Trevor was a little more weary. But, again, Wake Forest losing that potential really hurt them. And then they suffered some really tight losses early in the season. And then they lost to Florida State, Duke. I mean, they just had a rattled off, stretch of losses. It's just a rough season for them. Somehow they beat Pitt. I don't know. Pitt wasn't very good, but they still found a way to do it. So Wake, sorry, boys, I'm giving you an F. I like the color scheme, but you're not as cool as Vanderbilt. So sorry.
And they still got an F.
Yeah. Well, I did give him a D. I was a nice guy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You were. Nice.
Well, see, I changed up the way I did my grades this week.
Oh.
And I did because how bad I did the SEC. I was like, I mean, not every team is an F. So I kind of reevaluated the way that I was giving the grades.
Debatable.
And I kind of went more toward like what they had versus my expectations. So
I get it.
Like what they did with what they had on their rosters. Like I gave Wake Forest a C+. Because losing Sam Hartman, not that they were good, but it's just they lost the star of their team and was still able to win 4 games.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a little bit of accolades there. Not cherishing it by any stretch, but I think they did the most with what they had. So I gave them a C+.
Wow, look at you growing a soft spot. I like, I respect.
I did, dude. Well, they started poking through, kind of like the hair in the front of your hat. They kind of poked through the ACC a little bit, and that's a C+ hat, C+ haircut,
C+.
Haircut.
Get yourself a decent haircut.
Wow, we're going personal right out the gate.
That's fine.
It's a good haircut.
I haven't had a decent haircut in like 3 weeks. I need to go. I'm like the Peaky Blinders. Get yourself a decent haircut. So I'll go get the Thomas Shelby here soon, boys. Trevor, what you got, buddy?
Shoot, I'm not nice. They're an F. So that's that.
Brutal.
It's like kicking an orphan.
Yeah, they're kicking an orphan. If they were a soccer team, they'd be relegated to Division II. So there's that.
Or women's soccer.
I support that.
Or women's soccer. Yeah, maybe that too.
So,
as far as Wake Forest goes, I think they have an opportunity if they can recruit intelligently and then develop those. Because I mean, they're very unique because you can tap into a lot of different areas just on that east side of the country that you might not have as much competition. Now, the elite ones I'm not talking about, but the maybe 3-2 stars that you could get a lot of speed on the outside and stuff like that from kids that maybe aren't being as well. Like, it really would take a good recruiting director to really find these kids. But I guarantee you there's kids out there that are just blazing fast that just aren't jumping off the page all across the country, really. So I think Wake Forest has a unique opportunity, and their past success, even with Hardman, I think would do them well. But this season just wasn't it. Like, I'm just 1-7 in conference play is just, you can't do that. It's great that you got the 3 other wins, but 1-7 just, I can't give you anything better than an F at this point.
Yeah, again, I look at the quarterback play, and Griffiths was the leading quarterback on the team, 9 touchdowns, 7 picks. That's not going to get much done. You had other quarterbacks, Kern playing 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Again, it's just it's tough for him. So I get what Blake's saying on it, and I look at over under was 6.5. They were 2 below that, so over under I'd take as like kind of a C, but then I'm like, man, you lost tight game to friggin' Duke, who I believe at that time had already lost Riley Leonard. I don't know. It's just weird, but I still drop them that F. But again, these are grades. They're all based on our own ideas. So whatever it is, what it is, no big deal. Let's go on to the next team. Very forgettable to our man Blake over here, and I don't blame him. Virginia. And this is one, man. I like Virginia. I like their new helmets. I like their color scheme. I'm one of those guys. You know that by now. You should anyway. If you don't, I like uniforms. But Virginia, over under 3.5. They had the 76th rated offense and the 101st rated defense. Just another one that somehow they finished above Wake Forest. They went 3-9, but they finished ahead of them in the ACC standings. Because they went 2-6 in conference instead of 1-7. So, I mean, at least that's something, right? Some sort of growth. But they went out and they got beat by the vaunted Tennessee Vols. They got beat by James Madison, Maryland, NC State, Boston College, 5 straight losses. And then they beat William and Mary. They somehow beat North Carolina. And I think that was the week that North Carolina crept in at number 10. And everybody's like, oh, man, North Carolina, they might be real deal this year. They've got, quarterback play. They got all these things. Virginia comes in and smokes them, knocks them off, 31-27. And it was just one of those games that it made you feel good, especially after all the stuff that Virginia has gone through with, last year. So I was a little bit, more forgiving of them. I gave them a D. Again, their over-under was only a 3.5. So they finished 3-9. So, I mean, they hit their part, but still, it was still a rough season. You've lost in overtime to Miami, lost to Georgia Tech, got beat the hell down by Virginia Tech, So I don't know. I probably could have been a little bit more mean, but I give them a D.
I also went with a D for them. Same exact reasons. I'm not going to repeat everything you said, but they did for a minute look like they were going to pull off these upsets of the teams throughout the season. They had multiple opportunities, and the mighty Tennessee Vols, that was their marquee win of the season. They really showed what they were capable of in that game, but there just really wasn't much to be impressed with Virginia. I think they had some good receiver play throughout the year. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but yeah, there you go. He was a solid receiver throughout the season. Ain't really much else to say about him.
Yeah, well, you're right. There really isn't. I mean, they're very forgettable to say the least. Look, as much as I really want to crap on Virginia a bit, in my heart of hearts, I like Virginia overall more than I like Virginia Tech in general. So I really want Virginia to in my heart of hearts, I would much rather see Virginia do well. So
Yeah.
it pains me a little bit to see them not doing great, because I think honestly, Virginia has so much to offer. The University of Virginia, all of that stuff has. With that said, they're an F plus, but
God, dog.
Oh,
I love
man.
them. They're so great. F plus. You guys
Giving them dog food when they're starving, man.
I'm sorry, it sounded a little, a little.
No, they deserve
like
it.
I was throwing
They deserve
shade,
it.
but
no, you're good. Man.
but yeah, with Virginia, it's been very disappointing. I think that they have a unique opportunity that where they are located geographically to compete on a high level for really good, solid recruits, and it just doesn't, like, something's not working. And I mean, I don't know what it could possibly be, if it's an atmosphere thing with the coaching staff and just the university itself. I don't know. I've never heard anything to suggest otherwise, or vice versa. So yeah, it's just gonna. I find it funny that I put a plus next to it, trying to make it look better. But but F plus is what it is for me.
Hey, it is what it is. Virginia, do better. You can do better. Like Trevor said, there's a lot of recruiting pool in that area. They used to be good. Get a different coaching set in there, or whatever's going on. I don't know, administration maybe. But for the ACC as a whole, and we'll talk about them here shortly in our own 7-on-7 about the ACC. It's just, with Virginia and Virginia Tech both kind of being, mid and down, it hurts the conference. You want to see them be, up in the upper echelons again, like they used to be. It makes the conference more fun. Another team that's, just been weird is Pitt. And I think Pat Narduzzi's just kind of hit his, he's just in his median. He'll have a decent year and then he'll have a bad year. And then he's just a funky coach, man. Well, I mean, he did come from Michigan State, so I'm not shocked, but he does have good defenses. And we'll say, they had an over-under of 7. They definitely failed to hit that mark. They went 3-9 overall, 2-6 in conference. They had 114th ranked offense, and then the 49th ranked defense. So, at least he's consistent with defense. Maybe he just needs to go back and be a defensive coordinator. Expectations again, at least hit a bowl game, at least get to that mark. With the good defense, maybe they could get that, but they just couldn't do it. They couldn't pull it out, and they disappointed their fans yet again. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to. West Virginia beat them, Cincinnati, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, beat them by 2 scores. They somehow found a way to beat Louisville, though. That was their pride and joy of the season. They went in and beat Louisville 38-21. So, feather in the shit cap, if you will. But yeah, I gave them an F. Sucks to suck, buddy.
I also went with an F, but because they went 0-5 on the road, didn't win a single road game of the year. Even the Wake Forest Demon Deacons won a road game. So again, I had higher expectations for Pitt. They are like a mid-tier team that you expect to win 6-7 games a season, and there was nothing going for them. I don't even give credence to the Louisville win, because I was never as high on Louisville as everybody else was. They were a good team, yeah, but I mean, they wasn't like cream of the crop. So F.
Well, I will just say that I am probably in the minority with this grade, but I gave them a D-. And my reasoning is kind of simple, really, is that I really think that they have a better roster than they performed. I think they underperformed, but the roster could have performed better. I mean, the past few seasons, I don't think that this Pittsburgh team has done really well these past few seasons. And I think this is the first real season that, I mean, obviously the coach left, so there's all of that's starting to change. But I think Pittsburgh's a really interesting university, and they're like Blake said, is a mid-tier, but I just think that I think they're destined to be. I just think it's a better team overall than what their record reflects, and that's why I gave them a D minus. Slightly, I definitely think their roster is better than Wake Forest and Virginia, which is why they got a slight better one for that.
No, I definitely agree. I think they've got more, and that kind of lends for me why they got the F. But I look at their quarterback play this year was horrible. It really was. I mean, you got, I don't even know how to say his name. His first name's Christian. He's 7 touchdowns, 8 picks. And then Jerkovic came in, only 6 touchdowns to 3 picks. So, oh, geez. But yeah, it's just, shame, poor quarterback play. And that screws you on line play, running game. It affects everything. So go get a good quarterback, Pat, and, see what happens. Moving on from there. God dang it, Blake.
What did I do?
You just laughed.
You're the one.
Made me laugh. I know. I'm like a 4-year-old.
Jerkovic. What am I supposed to do? Jesus.
God dog. Well, let's talk about Syracuse. How about that? Let's move on.
Let's talk about them orange.
Yeah, that orange Dino Babers, babe. Well, he's gone. Bye. They kicked him out of town.
Hey, no worries, Syracuse fans. You got McCord, the savior, savior of the orange.
Dude,
I think Ohio State did McCord dirty personally, but I don't know.
Oh, I guarantee you they did. And then they go out and spend a mint just to try and create a championship team.
Yeah. Look at Ohio State catching strays.
Does Syracuse have fans?
Yeah, they're actually a rabid base, man. The carrier
right here.
Yeah.
I've just never met one.
Well, yeah.
Well, we used to play
up in Michigan, where I grew up in Michigan, man. There's some Syracuse fans that trickled into Detroit.
Yeah, you remember AJ's Destructo, though.
Yeah, we have met one Syracuse fan, and I bet his girlfriend was tied up in the bottom of his basement. She was a strange cat.
That's for sure. Well, let's go ahead and talk about this program. Over under was 6.5. They finished 97th overall in offense, 65th overall on defense. Again, Dino, I almost called him Dino. My bad. Dino Babers. He got booted out of town. Maybe early in the season when you looked at their schedule, people thought they might cause some troubles, and because they had a 4-0 start, and then they went to play Clemson. I think if I remember correctly, the first half was kind of like close and funky, and then Clemson pulling away, and turnovers, a lot of turnovers. It's just a weird game, but Clemson ended up pulling away, and then they went on a losing streak. North Carolina, Florida State, Virginia Tech, Boston College, and then they beat the lowly Pitt Panthers, lost to Georgia Tech, and then they beat Wake Forest by 4 points. So, and then they got blanked, absolutely annihilated by USF, 45-0 in their bowl game. So I went out, I gave them a D plus because they did go 6-7 overall. So they hit their over under. But again, 2-6 in conference is just kind of do better, boys. Come on now.
Well, I actually think was it Garrett Schrader? Was that it? What was that his name? Quarterback. I thought he was a solid quarterback to start the season. He just didn't really have any key components to work with on his offense, and it caused a lot of struggle. It was almost like a Wish.com Spencer Rattler type thing. He was trying to do it all himself, and there was nobody to really help him out. And he bailed him out of a lot of the situations that they almost lost games. I went with a C for that reason, just because I do think he was a solid quarterback at times. It just didn't have the team around him to really help him get anywhere.
This particular team is a victim for me in my rankings for a team that had slightly higher expectations coming into the season. So I feel like they disappointed me in just about every way you could possibly disappoint me. Because I had them in my head, I thought they'd finish better than what they did. So they're right there with Pittsburgh as far as I'm concerned, and they're getting a D minus from me as well. Just for sheer fact that you only got 2 wins in the conference, and I feel like they are. When you talk about 2 wins, I feel like that they should have at least been able to get, I'd say four conference wins and still win those other games to put them in a better position to get in, just to have a better record, have a better overall showing. And that's why I gave them a D-. And I don't know. I feel like this is the going rate for Syracuse, especially with McCord at the helm now.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the staff they're bringing together, and I think McCord actually did fine at Ohio State.
Oh, they did him dirty. They did him dirty for sure. I thought he was a very good quarterback.
Yeah, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see them in 24. But yeah, rough season for 26, for 23, but it might help them out going forward. You never know. So let's talk about Miami. This is one of our favorite listeners, one of his favorite teams, Miami, arch rival of Florida State, and they had an over/under of 7.5. They finished with 31st offense, 24th defense. So not a bad team at all. Like when you look statistically, they came back with a veteran quarterback. But I'll tell you guys, I don't really like Mario Cristobal. I don't know, just something about him. I know he recruits really well. I mean, it's easy when you can throw a bag, but I know everybody's he doesn't just recruit with money. Okay, come on.
That's how he got Cam Ward. That's how he got his probably next Heisman candidate to Miami.
It's like, come on. I mean, you're going 7-6. You're not doing anything, but you're still reeling in 5-star recruits. That does not translate. Something's
something's not right here.
Yeah, there's other teams that do that too. But I'm not going to get into that. Either way, Miami finished 7-6 on the season, 3-5 in conference. So 3-5, whatever. Again, up and down season, just back and forth. They beat Texas A&M. Everybody's kind of maybe they're going to be good this year. And then they lost to Georgia Tech on some just BS stupidity. I mean, everybody remembers that the fumble on the last play, and then whatever. It's just stupid. So they lost that game 23-20, and then they lost to North Carolina, who at the time we thought, North Carolina's pretty good. They went and beat Clemson in overtime. They beat Virginia in overtime, and then they rattled off losses to NC State, Florida State, Louisville. Lost to Rutgers in the bowl game. I gave them a C-. They did hit the over/under of 7. Technically it would be the under, but I give them a C-. They had some good wins, bad losses, just a mixed season, funky, weird, meh.
Yeah, I give them a C+. They were not good. They did have some marquee wins, but the losses that they had were just atrocious, and they had opportunities in each of those games to win the games. But Mario Cristobal is a lot like Joe Biden. Everybody says he just does a good job, but he just don't. He doesn't make good decisions, but then everybody's like, yeah, but they're good. Everything's good in Miami, but it's not. So, I mean, that's how I attribute them.
Yeah.
And they're just not a good team. They find a way to scrape together a couple of good wins a year, but when it comes to coaching decisions, they just don't make good ones in games, but everyone says that they're good. So C+.
C+.
Yeah,
Trevor?
That was a lot, and all I got from that is that I feel like a C+ is generous.
I was being nice.
Okay,
you're being a nice guy tonight.
I guess I'm going to sound like an a-hole then, because I gave them a D+.
Hell yeah.
D for deserving.
The D for deserving, exactly right. Basically, honestly, Blake literally took the words right out of my damn mouth, because like everything I would have said, he just said, but he gave them a C+. So there's that.
Hey, some people grade on curves. It is.
Hey, I'm cool with it. He just took the words legitimately out of my brain and he spoke them. So that's cool.
Hey, there's not much else to say about Miami.
There's really not. I mean, I liked their team. I really did. Like, I thought the quarterback Van Dyke was doing really good. And I don't know, like, there's something not right about that team. I can't put my finger on what could it possibly be. They had all the talent in the world. I mean, we saw the hype coming into it, into the season. But I don't know, man.
Also,
I'm sticking with a D+ on these guys. I was thinking about changing it for a second, but now I'm not going to.
I mean, it's fair either way. C's, D, it is what it's all the same. It's not a B or better, okay?
Pedestrian.
Nursing school, that's typically a fail, and same with artillery school. But let's say, Miami, I wish that they had an on-campus stadium. I like the stadium they play in, but they're another one like UCLA, all these other, they can't pack it out. Where's that home field advantage? That I feel like that would help them also. So I don't know.
They actually have a really nice, or I don't know if it's torn down now, but their actual on-campus stadium was a solid stadium that I used to play at it on the old NCAA games.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why they went away from it. They've got money to fix it.
Yeah.
So just fix it.
Well, maybe not anymore if they're throwing it at recruits, but again.
Well, yeah, D+. Fix your stadium.
I digress.
D for fix your damn stadium. D+.
Let's talk about a funky team too, Boston College.
Very funky.
Yeah, this was one that I exited them out of my web browser. Oh well, either way, Boston College over/under was 5.5. They finished 7-6 on the season, 68th in the offense, 70th defense. It's just another one. They had a really messed up early season. They almost beat Florida State in the rain. They couldn't pull it off. Then they had a 5-game win streak, and then they lost 3. It's just weird. And then they did win in the Fenway Bowl though against SMU, which was a solid team, from the AAC, and now they're in the ACC. So that's going to be really strange going next year when we do the conference breakdowns and the projections. A lot of new stuff going in 2024. Not much to say about them other than just weird, up and down. Had some games they really could have finished off. I like their quarterback. I thought he had a really solid season and made some really cool plays. But I finished them with a C-. They hit over on the over-under. Could have done more, but it's to be expected. It's Boston College, new coach coming forward. We're going to talk about that here in a little while. And yeah, C- for me.
I went with a C, meh. They played a couple of close games, didn't pull them out. C.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you guys. Excuse me. C's a very decent grade for Boston College, but I gave them a D. I was not happy with the way they played, so I'm just like, I feel like this. I feel weird about my grading right now because it's literally like just climbing up the keynotes, just kind of just slowly, gradually coming up in the grades.
Well, I mean, we're talking about the ACC, so I mean, it's very top heavy.
Yeah,
the bottom
it
like
is.
8, 9, 10, 11 teams are just ass, and then like
Look,
the top 1 or 2 teams are decent.
I feel like if the ACC and the Big 12 merged, we would have the most amount of mid-grade teams in all of any sport, like of people. Like it would be insanity. But yeah, for BC, it's a D, man. It's just like I can't wait to talk about this new coach coming in because I'm looking forward to chatting about that.
Yeah,
you'll be seeing that here soon. But
I have things to say.
Boston College just disappoints me all the time. I just expect them, although they did have a really good rushing game this year. Like they did really well there, which you kind of expect them to be good in the front.
Yeah.
In the offensive line almost every year. They're pretty darn good with it. So
yeah, I like Boston College. I think they're a neat team. Blake's played with them in Dynasty. I think we've all probably tried to get there at some point. It was a hell of a season.
Got that natty.
Got that natty. If you can't tell, we're really excited about the EA Sports.
We will probably drop a little tidbit like every so often, be like, yeah, we love NCAA college football and they need to do something.
Oh,
yes.
Maybe I'll say it now. I'll say it now because we're talking about it.
Yeah,
EA,
do it live.
So now tomorrow, it's been the rumor. Matt Brown again, the lead on this really in dropping news. Tomorrow, February the 15th. So if you guys listen to it, it'll probably be today. You know what I mean. February the 15th. There's all the colleges in college football are supposed to drop all of their information and like videos and pictures on what they've sent EA for the new game. So everybody's like keying in, waiting for tomorrow, and seeing what they're gonna drop. So it's exciting. It's like
here is how we break the internet. All of EA Sports NCAA football fans dive into the internet all at the same time to look at all this stuff.
134 teams about to drop everything that they sent to EA. It's going to be a mess, but I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to that. And
it's exciting.
So yeah, I know I went off on a tangent, but I can't hold it in, baby.
It's all good.
We're done with Boston College. We'll talk about them and Dynasty and later in the life. North Carolina. We all said they were pretenders, right? I'm pretty sure we said that.
Oh yeah,
but boy,
pretenders.
They had us, at least me. They had me feeling a certain way.
Not this guy.
And like that week where they got to number 10, I was like, okay, hold on. They had Tez Walker come in, and I was like, oh, because they had that whole scenario in the beginning where he couldn't play. The NCAA is doing NCAA crap. But again, they whatever. Over under was 8.5. They had a 7th ranked offense, which shocked the hell out of me. 94th ranked defense. They finished 8-5 overall. They hit the over under. That's a push. I guess it would be under because it's 8.5. But they went 8-5. They 4-4 in conference. They ran off some wins, like I said early. They hit number 10 in the polls, and then they went to a bunch of losses. They lost to Virginia. They lost to Georgia Tech the next week. Thank God they played a depleted Duke team, and the Campbells. I mean, come on, like that still blows my mind. Play that early, not late season, and then they got beat by Clemson and NC State, lost to West Virginia in the bowl game. Again, disappointing from North Carolina. They have what's everybody's saying is one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Drake May, which I see talent in him. I do, but there's times too when I'm like, I don't know if it's the team around him or it's him missing these passes. I think they had so many expectations, but Mac Brown I just don't think he's got it in him anymore. He's been around.
He ain't got that dog in him, man.
He never had the dog in him.
No, he really didn't.
Brutal. I gave him a C. They met standard for them. They met par. To me, C is like, hey, you're there, whatever.
Drake May as a quarterback reminds me of like when you're in the classroom at school and you like shoot the wadded up paper in the garbage can and you miss it. And rather than going over there and picking it up and just throwing it away, you walk back to where you were and you keep throwing it until you make it. And you're like, oh, that was a good shot. That's how he is as a quarterback to me. He just keeps doing it. And then he has a couple that look really good. I'm not impressed with him. He's decent. I don't think he's going to be some Tom Brady, esque quarterback in the NFL. I think whoever drafts him is just wasting money if they get him in the first round. But I went with a C for him just because Mac Brown's a crybaby. I don't like him. He's ugly. He's got weird hair. His face looks weird. He's got an odd body shape. And, I don't like him at all. C.
All right. Yeah. Tough to follow that one, but I'm going to try.
Hey, I like it.
We're going to wait, who are we talking about again?
North Carolina.
Oh, that's right. Oh, right.
Forgettable.
Oh, my goodness. Those pedestrians everywhere. I can't even handle it.
He hasn't said in a while, folks, but he dropped tonight.
I had to. The UNC is the original pedestrian, the original pretender. So, I just, everything y'all said, Drake May, he's fake. I cannot believe he's still being talked to as the second best quarterback in the freaking draft. It just blows my flipping mind. Bunch of freaking idiots. Anyway, UNC, you could tell from almost.
Just say it. You gave him an F.
Oh, I gave him a C-. I really did.
Okay.
I gave him a C-.
Generous.
I was super generous. It was seriously very generous. But they frustrate the crap out of me. Absolute frustration with UNC because they literally had anything. They could have ran that league if they would have actually played, I don't know, a 10th better. Like they just, just moseying on through, kind of like Mac Brown moseying on through life. But yeah, it's just UNC is just a joke, and it's not getting any better for him. I mean, Drake May, they're talking about the second best quarterback in the draft, and he's probably the worst quarterback to ever come out of UNC.
Oh, brutal, baby. Hey, I hope some UNC fans see this because we want the smoke, baby. Bring it. Let's go.
I know Mitch Trubisky would like that statement.
I'm sure he would.
God dang. Hey,
I'm sure
I was going to say, is he going to be another bust like Mitch? But
Jared, tag him in our Twitter.
Hey, tag him. Hey, he did tag Drake, didn't he, that one time?
He sure as hell did.
Send it
Drake
again,
didn't
baby.
say nothing.
And you know what he did?
Dog, you know.
I think that was
He
the
agrees.
I'm pretty sure the following weekend he lost badly to whatever team he was playing.
It's probably when
he agreed with your yeah, he agreed with your analysis, I believe, Trevor.
Yeah. I believe so. I think he accepted it as fact, and I appreciate that.
We are elite in what we do, gentlemen. Some may not say it, but we do. We are the best, and you are the rest. Okay, except for our great fans and listeners. That's we love you guys. Let's get on out of North Carolina again. Great state, shitty team. Let's move to Duke. All right, Duke was one that. Initial first game of the season when they beat Clemson, everybody's like, oh, hold on. Riley Leonard was, playing really well. They had good run game, good defense. But then, things, started falling apart later in the season. Obviously, he got injured. They blew a game to Notre Dame. It was like the inverse of Notre Dame blowing it to Ohio State. Well, Duke did that to Notre Dame. Either way, they had an over-under of 6. Nobody really knew what to expect. They kind of were like, this might be a dark horse with Riley Leonard. They had the 94th offense, 41st defense. Finished 8-5 on the season, so they beat the over-under. 4-4 in conference. Again, strong start. Riley Leonard, their offense, defense, everything seemed to be clicking outside that mistake against Notre Dame. And then, Riley Leonard did get hurt. That ankle messed up, and then they lost to Florida State. They really had no chance in that game after, it was really, I think, halftime he made it through, and it was like, okay, he just couldn't go anymore. And then they lost to Louisville 23-0. Went on, beat Wake Forest, lost to North Carolina, Virginia, but they did beat Troy in a bowl game. So, that's something to hang a hat on, I guess, and to finish the season, especially after losing your quarterback. So I gave them a B- personally. I thought they had a good, strong year for what they went through. But yeah, more to be desired. Sucks losing your quarterback.
When you think of Duke, you think of one of two things. You either think of basketball or you think of shit. And usually that's what Duke is. But as of late, they have come on. That. Well, I mean, it is what it is, but they have played well. And with Riley Leonard under center, they was really good. They had a good run game. They had a good their defensive line was very impressive and didn't get a lot of recognition. They did crumble later in the season. I truly believe without the injury to Riley Leonard, I think they win more games. I think they had a better opportunity to take down Florida State. There was really no answer for their run game. And, I gave them a B, and I thought they were a very good team, and they had an opportunity to be a dark horse in the ACC. So, yeah, I liked them.
Yeah, I like Duke too. I still gave them a C, but I do like them. It's just like I have a hard time looking at a team that crumbles that much with the loss of the quarterback. When I think of teams like, I don't know, the first one that comes to mind is like Arizona. One quarterback goes down, the other one comes up, and it just shows that the team was always very good. It just needed a better quarterback, better general to run the ship. It just shows that Duke just did not have the depth at the most important position.
Sure.
And that's where it comes down for me is it's I don't know, it just seemed like Elko didn't quite have that team confident in itself across the board. It's like they drew all their confidence from Riley Leonard, which I get it. A lot of teams kind of go off of the beat of the quarterback's drum, for lack of a better term. And so that's why they got a C from me. It's not anything. It's not a detriment to them or say that they were a terrible team. It's just I just think that they weren't a B team, in my opinion. The way I've been grading these, it's just I don't see them being that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get it, and like you said, once their new quarterbacks came in, you could tell the energy was gone.
Yeah.
Probably going to be a rough season next year for Duke. We'll see, but they lost their head coach and Riley Leonard to the portal. So we'll keep you posted on Duke when we get into our 2024 projections. Let's talk Clemson, and we're going to get rolling onto these next teams. The top 7 of the conference, again, Notre Dame, I've got them added in there. Clemson, over-under of 10, 50th on offense, 8th on defense. Another strong defensive showing. They have talent all over the field, but they finished 9-4. They went 4-4 in conference play. They were shocked early by Duke. I don't think many were expecting that. Klubnik, he had some mistakes all season. It was just a weird season for them because they came out and they had some solid wins. Notre Dame, North Carolina, if you want to call it that. They did win their bowl game. But they lost in overtime to Florida State, and that was tough because they were right there, man. They were right there, but a fumble recovery from Florida State really turned that game, and because right there, Clemson was ready to take it. I personally gave them a C+. Their over-under was 10. They were below that. They left some to be desired. There was a lot of miscues, fumbles. So I thought they could have done more, but I still a team to watch next year.
Yeah, I went with a B- on Clemson because even though their over under was 10, I didn't have that expectation really. I did think they would win the ACC, but I did not expect Florida State to be as good as they ended up being. But Klubnik had a lot of inconsistencies throughout the year, and it ultimately cost them. But they're in that situation where there were just a couple of miscues that the game would have went the other way. So they could have very easily been, an 10 or 11 win team. And they do have a lot of talent. They've always got a good defensive system under Dabo. I will say this about Dabo. He is probably the cringiest, one of the 5 cringiest coaches I've ever seen in my life. The way he runs across that field before the game, it's like watching that girl run on the bridge to Terabithia out there running like she's got like cerebral palsy or something. It's just weird. And I don't understand why he does it. It makes me cringe when I see it. And I got him as the number 2 coach in college football after saying all of that. But I went with a B- on Clemson. I do think next year though, they will be a team to watch.
Yeah, it's hard to say that. I mean, I would say that they're going to be the favorite in the ACC coming into the 2024 season. It would be hard. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't want to give nod to Miami when I don't have to right now. So anyway.
Next 7 on 7, folks, watch out for it. It might cause a stir. Sorry, Trevor, carry on.
But I gave Clemson a C because honestly, it's Clemson, and they're going to get judged at a higher level than anybody else in the SEC, including Florida State, in my opinion. I feel like that it's Clemson and everybody else as far as the way people look at the ACC. I would even say that some might say that Florida State gets a little disrespected when it comes to the ACC, just because the way the outside point of view looks at them as second tier to Clemson now, more so. I think maybe not everybody, but I guess that's the way I feel about it. But
projecting onto others, Trevor.
Projecting other people's thoughts as my own. Got it.
You must
anyway,
be a
no. Yeah.
40 chess.
But no, I mean, really, Club Me in My Face didn't impress me at all. And And it's just one of those things where God, every part about Clemson's team I just didn't like this year. Like the way they played, the way that they, for the first time in, gosh, I don't know, since before Deshaun Watson, I see Clemson playing down to the competition that they're playing with, and it's just like I've never seen this side with Dabo Swinney at the helm, like at least not to my recent recollection.
Yeah.
They played like a young team when they weren't.
Yeah.
Is what it looked like to me. Like they should have, with the talent that they had on their team, they should have been in contention for the ACC, and they just was never really there.
Yeah.
Nope. It's like they lost the forgive me for the quote, but the Mamba mentality, or like
sure,
or whatever you want to put, the bulldog, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's just one of those things where you could just tell that it just Dabo Swinney did not have that team running on all cylinders.
Really, it wasn't until that call from old Tyler from Spartanburg, man, they got him. He questioned Dabo's contract, and if 4-4 was worth the money he's getting, well, I turned it on, and they won out from there. So I mean, maybe he was a plant. He's a plant from the boosters or some shit. I have no idea. But Clemson again finished 9-4. We're gonna move on. Watch for them in the 2024 season. Virginia Tech, one of my good friends, huge fan of Virginia Tech. His name's Cody, great guy. He asked me to be fair, and I'm always fair. Okay, I'm a fair guy. It's like Rodney Dangerfield. Keep it fair. Virginia Tech though, over under 5.5. They have the 58th offense, 20th defense. Not a bad team, but just kind of again hit and miss. They're just not consistent when they needed to be. They lost a couple games here, like back and forth. They went 7-6 overall, 5-3 in conference. Like I said, it was up and down, man. Just kind of back and forth, weird. They had losses to the big teams, and then they lost to Marshall. They had back and forth all the way till the end of the season. They did get a bowl win versus Tulane, which I like Tulane. I think they're a solid team. But early on, they had to change quarterbacks. Those first two losses, in the Big Ten, are against Purdue and then Rutgers. But they had to change quarterbacks. They went with Kyron Jones, and I think he really sparked their offense. When you look at the stats and just the way they changed their play, they were actually in games. They were lively, except for the Florida State one. But outside of that, in Louisville, they were in it with NC State. It's just a weird up and down season for them. Their biggest thing for me, though, third down conversions. They're 105th on third downs percentage in the season. That's not going to get it done. So I want to see how they do next season. I think they have a chance to maybe surprise some teams next year. But I gave them a C+.
I've always been like, they're a secondary team. If I had to claim like another team, I've always liked Virginia Tech. I love their colors, their stadium. And I actually seen a Hokie in real life. I've always wondered what those were. And one waited on me at the drive-thru the other day, and she didn't give me the drink to my kid's Happy Meal. And I'm sitting there waiting on it after she handed me my food, and she's waiting on me to drive off. And she opens the window and starts gobbling at me. And I'm like, I just need my sweet tea. Would you calm down? And she looked just like that damn turkey thing. But she had that neck gobbling around right there. I don't know what the hell that was. But anyways, I was about to hit her in the gizzard. But anyways, Virginia Tech, since Frank Beamer's left, it hasn't been the same there. There was always a top defense, great special teams. They had solid quarterbacks. They was always in contention year in, year out for titles, and now they're nowhere. And it's sad to see, because I really like them. They did do a little better than I expected them to this year, so I gave them the C+ as well. And I'm really hoping that they right the ship there and can get it turned around.
Virginia Tech. Well,
somber.
Well,
It's just, I mean, we have come a long way from the days of Michael Vick and the powerhouse that once was Virginia Tech, and now they are Joe Schmo. Nobody gives a whatever
gives a what?
about you.
Please finish the sentence.
You know,
For the love of God, finish
For
it.
the love of God.
You know. But no, the Hokies are just done. Like, they
And they're
can't keep
cooked.
any recruits, and any of the good players at this point. They don't have anything to keep them there. The players that they get a star freshman or something like that, I can almost guarantee that he's going to be gone unless he has some family BS tie to Virginia, which is like not even a good excuse to stay in Virginia. But Virginia Tech is ridiculous, and I just gave them a C- because I put them on the same level as North Carolina, maybe even worse in some cases.
And you hate North Carolina this year.
I do. Man, just about every part of that team I don't like. Ball boy is a disgrace. The ball boy is a disgrace.
They need Bobby Boucher. But yeah, Virginia Tech. I want to see them get better. Come on, guys. Come on. Great intro. One of the top intros in college football.
That's true.
Man.
I give them that.
Love that. Let's go to Georgia Tech. We're starting to get to the top of the ACC, and it's weird saying Georgia Tech in the top of the ACC.
You took it right out of my brain. Like, I was like, does anybody find it awkward that we're talking about Georgia Tech at the top of the ACC?
And it's another one that's funny when you look at, the rankings, and obviously they're, all one division. You got Clemson, who was 9-4, Duke 8-5, North Carolina 8-5, but they all finished below 7-6, Virginia Tech 7-6, Georgia Tech. But again, they did better in conference play. It makes sense, but it's just weird to look at. So again, Georgia Tech, they lost to Louisville early in a tight game, and then they got beat up by Ole Miss. They lost to freaking Bowling Green. They lost to Boston College by a big clip. Got smoked by Clemson, and then they kept it tight with Georgia, the old vaunted Bulldogs of the SEC. Georgia Tech, though, again, over/under was 4.5. They had the 34th ranked offense, but by God, their defense was horrible at their 120th. They finished 7-6, 5-3 in conference. Exchange losses. They're just back and forth. They don't know who they are. We don't know who they are. No identity. But Haynes King, I give them a plus because he really turned that program around, in my opinion. He helped them a lot with his running ability and his ability to throw. So maybe it was weird for Texas A&M seeing him on another team. I'm sure it was, but not much to say about him. I gave him a C+. I like Haynes King. Good for him to ball out there.
Yeah, I gave them an A/B because they not only are they the Yellow Jackets, which is, I guess, a distant cousin to a B, but they have turned around their program. I'm used to seeing them run 105 times a game, and it's weird seeing them actually come out and throw the football for a change, and it's a fun thing to watch. And I'm probably biased because I've done many seasons with Georgia Tech on NCAA because I love their stadium and their uniforms. I love the honeycomb. I like honey in general. Honey's a great nutritious sweet.
It's an aphrodisiac.
It's great. It's great. Not a fan of Yellow Jackets. I think that would be like a clam or an oyster.
Oh yeah.
But so I don't know if honey falls into that category. I don't.
Maybe they're
so.
cousins.
Maybe.
That's stupid as shit. I know. I'm just.
Yeah, I'm so confused. Like I feel like I'm in marine biology right now. But no, no, you're good. B. I really like Georgia Tech, and I think they're trending upwards finally.
Yeah, I applaud Georgia Tech from where they've gotten to from the triple option and all that other crazy madness that they ran. But I still lot them in with, Clemson and UNC, Duke, and so I'm going to give them a C-. They're right alongside Virginia Tech. I know that what the record was and what they were able to do this season. I feel like with the change in regime, a part of me's giving them a little bit of an unrealistic expectation, I feel like. And that's my fault for probably giving them that, only because of where Georgia Tech is located as far as geographically in the heart of Atlanta and in the North Georgia, south part of South Carolina. They have such an easy road to recruiting if they would just turn the program around and make it more appealing for today's athletes. I really think that Georgia Tech could become something very special.
Ding, 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 ding. You took it right out of my mouth, man. I was going to say that they are a sleeping giant, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In the ACC. I mean, they've got everything at their disposal.
I mean, yes. I think Georgia Tech is could be, if you get the right personnel, right people there to recruit well, one, to get them there, and then to develop them there, man, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit for Georgia Tech.
Well, guys, let's drive on into another team here, NC State. They had some higher expectations, I thought, coming into the season. They had a veteran quarterback who transferred from Virginia, and Brennan Armstrong. They had an over-under of 7, but they finished with a 91st offense and the 29th ranked defense. They made a good bowl game, the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Also, RIP to the founder of Pop-Tarts. He passed away yesterday. So Godspeed, Spider-Man. We appreciate you for all that you've done. And the edible Pop-Tart, beautiful. What a way to send off an absolute legend and a king in this country. I digress. So finished 9-4 overall, 6-2 in conference. A good season from them. They beat the over-under. Yeah, they were 4-3 in the first half of the year. They kind of, again, on and off, lost to Notre Dame. They lost to Louisville, lost to Duke. But then they went on, beat Clemson, Miami, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, and then they did lose to Kansas State in the bowl game. Brendan Armstrong was shaky at the beginning, but he found a way to get some wins for him. I gave him a B-. Solid season. I still feel like they could have done a little bit more, especially with Louisville. That was a 13-10 game. I don't know. B-. Maybe it's a little too harsh on them, but B-.
Yeah, I went with the same exact grade. No, not at all. They were a lot like Clemson. They was very inconsistent at times. They would come out in these games and play very well in some of the games they won, like Miami, but then turned around and looked like a completely different team the next week. So, and they went on that winning streak there at the end. So they were a very good team, and they had the potential all season. They just never really got it together early on. And I think they could have yielded a lot better record than what it shows. So I went with the B-. Could have been an A. Could have been a dark horse.
Yeah. Yeah. And NC State, man, they were close. They were close in some of them games. And a fun little stat that I get a little giggle out of is that, just so everyone's aware, NC State's defense was just as good as Florida State's defense. Just throwing it out there by the numbers.
Hold on.
Their points against were identical to Florida State's. Man. I just want to throw it out there. Just throwing it out there. That is why I gave NC State a B+.
Oh, okay.
I think that they were advertised. I wasn't completely on board. I know these guys know that I wasn't completely on board. They were a little bit more high on NC State than I was, but I came around and I really liked what they did this season. I thought they again could also be something at NC State where they could create something really special there too.
Yeah.
There's a couple, honestly, within the ACC outside of Clemson, Florida State, and you could even maybe throw like Miami into that mix as the three-headed monster. Like, there are some hidden gems with programs within this conference that could really do well if they get the right personnel and the right recruiting personnel there to bring in the right type of athletes that are going to stick around.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's a cool conference. I like the teams in it. Like you said, it's just waking these teams back up. Virginia Tech, getting North Carolina State back in it. North Carolina is just kind of in that weird. They have potential to be a really strong conference. I'd hate to see it destroyed, but it might because the ACC leadership, they're a bunch of ass clowns. Oh,
Yeah.
and by the way, Wolf Pack, right? The Wolf Pack. Hey, I said that they were my dark horse because their uniforms. I secretly knew that they were good, so that's just what it is. That's right. That's right. All right, John. Let's move on. Team that I don't care for personally. We're throwing them in here at third in the rankings. Notre Dame. Obviously, they're independents.
Wow.
They're their own kind of thing. But if you look at it, this is kind of where they would have fallen. They play a lot of ACC teams. Over under 8.5, 29th on offense, fifth ranked defense. They finished 10-3 on the year. They beat NC State early, choked away the win to Ohio State. That was just brutal. They had 10 men on the field, like 3 straight plays. Like, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Still tickles me to think about it. Still tickles me to think.
Oh my God. No, it infuriates me. It's funny, but it also, like, come on.
Yeah, I know.
Strike would have been better, but whatever. They got smoked by Louisville, beat by Clemson. And then they did beat a depleted, the old depleted beaver is what I called it on my notes. But Oregon State, after they got purged from the Pac-12 and disintegrating. Hartman was on and off all year. Estime was good. He carried the team a lot. Good defense. I gave him a B.
I gave them a B-. They lost all the big games, and they shouldn't have lost the Ohio State game. No, we said that on that episode when we did that. They choked it away. It was embarrassing. But I feel like they didn't utilize Sam Hartman the way he should have been. We said that on multiple shows throughout the season.
Yeah.
They just never really – I just don't feel like they utilized the roster to its potential. And they could have very easily been a playoff contender, and they didn't. Because Sam Hartman, I think he's that good of a quarterback when utilized appropriately, which he was not. So B-. Not a big fan of their coach, and I'm really not a big fan of anything about their program whatsoever at all. So they're lucky they're getting a B.
The only reason that I would even agree to talk about Notre Dame is because they play a couple ACC teams, and I feel like it'd be disrespectful to those teams to not talk about Notre Dame. However, that was why my mess up there when I flashed up the ACC. I was like, oh, I forgot we're talking about Notre Dame. They're in, but they're not in. They have commitment issues, and it pisses me off.
I agree.
So like, God dang, man. I honestly want them to just go away. Can they just go like uber private and not be a part of the NCAA altogether?
Just join the UFL.
They don't play Michigan. They don't play I think they play Michigan State as a rivalry they kept around. Or Purdue. Like, who gives a rat's ass about that? Like, everybody in the country would have much rather seen Michigan and Notre Dame continue to play.
Wow, you just offended like 30,000 people in the state of Indiana.
There's that many?
Well, I mean,
anyway,
Purdue at least half fills their stadium.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
All right, Ron.
Oh man, but I gave him a B. You guys are right. We said it from, I think, what was it, game 2? That we watched 2 of their games and we basically came to the same conclusion. Came to the same conclusion. What are they doing with Sam Hartman? Like, what? You're putting him under center with 3 tight ends. Like, how are you even thinking that this is his skill set?
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
I felt like he was out of his comfort zone for sure.
Yeah, you could tell he was uncomfortable. Like, watching it in my living room, you could just feel how uncomfortable the guy was.
You just think, you leave Wake Forest, you go to a program like Notre Dame, the talent level is night and day between the 2 programs.
Yeah.
You think you're going to get a better line, you're going to get better receivers,
but you're going to be able to play the spread like they have been in the past, where they'll put them in shotgun most of the game. But nope.
Yeah. It was very odd to see that. You know, why bring the guy in and then run a, you know, what I wouldn't even call that a pro style, is they didn't for the first half of the
Like
season, they
power
really
eye.
didn't. Yeah, it was very odd.
It was weird, man. It
I
was
don't know.
weird.
Notre Dame's a funky team, and I'm curious to see what they do with Riley Leonard, because I almost wish he would have gone somewhere else, because I think Riley Leonard's a really talented quarterback.
Yeah.
They'll probably do
I
the same thing.
I just don't trust Notre Dame. So I don't know. We'll talk more about them in our season previews. We'll get into all that.
But yeah, sorry. Sorry, we went off on a tangent, but it's a B for me. It's a B for me. They weren't a B minus team necessarily, I think, but they certainly were not better than NC State, in my opinion, or any other team in the any of the other higher teams.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's just, again, a weird team. I don't know. Join a conference, for God's sake. All right, let's get into the top two here. Louisville is next. Conference runner-up. Another one that just kind of a weird season. I think I've said that a lot tonight about the ACC. Just weird. You know, this was Trevor's dark horse. Great pick. Over/under of 8. They had 41st ranked offense, 22nd defense. They finished 10-4 on the season and 7-1 in the conference. So they ran through the conference. They did what they needed to do, except for Pitt. They were in playoff position. They had every chance to get themselves into that conversation. Even late in the season, you know, after that Pitt game, they found a way to get back in, and then they lose to frickin' Kentucky. Okay, I know Kentucky's had a couple of decent games. We talked about them, but they were still underwhelming. Kentucky, and Louisville went out and blew it. And then they lost to third string quarterback in the conference championship against Florida State. Now we know Florida State's good; they have very strong defense, but they shut down Louisville. So I gave Louisville a B plus simply because they lost to a third string quarterback in the conference championship game, and they lost to fucking USC. Okay. Yeah. And USC's defense is horrific. That's why they fired Alex Grinch. So I don't know. That it is what it is. They upset me. Go on.
Yeah.
Well, I went with an A minus for the Cards just because they typically don't contend in the ACC, and they had a really good season. They took most teams to the wire, and they was right there in it with a chance at the end of the season until the Pitt loss to go to the playoffs. And I know they lost to the third string quarterback in Florida State, but the way that defense played for Florida State that night,
it was nasty.
That was one of the best defensive performances I've seen all season. And honestly, in the past couple of seasons, especially the front four that night, Jared Verse and the number 55, I believe his name escapes me, but was it Fisher? Sarah Fisher there?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know
who you're talking about. I can't put a name.
Yeah, but anyways, Jared can roast me on Twitter for it, but that dude, whatever his name was, he was fantastic that night. And that was a great defensive performance. And like I said, I don't know that anybody would have been able to score on them like that. So I still went with the A-. I still think Louisville was a good team. I don't think they were a great top tier team or anything like that, but I feel like they're worthy of an A.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they appreciate the A. I do. And as much as high as I was on the Cards, I did not feel that. And I know that I am probably a little harsher when we get to these higher grades, because I feel like in my mind, the A, any sort of A, you have to be top tier. So with me, I didn't view Louisville as that, even though they had a wonderful, phenomenal season. So I just I gave them a B plus. I just didn't quite think that they if they would have went undefeated in the ACC, then I would definitely probably put them just that little notch higher where Blake has them at the A minus. And that's just where my head is at with it. They had a phenomenal season, and you don't see it happen too often when Louisville is good. So it makes me happy that my prediction kind of came true.
Yeah, especially with first-year head coach. I think Brom's going to
Yeah.
do good things for that program. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
He did great things for Purdue. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with old Louisville. Great season for him. Not trying to knock him down at all. It's like an 88. You know what I mean? That's what a plus. You know, you put pluses in there. Teachers do that shit. Let's talk about Florida State. You know,
yes, let's.
The ultimate snub. You know, a lot of people still in pain over it, and I understand it. Over under was 9.5. They had a tough schedule. 52nd overall on offense, and they finished 28th overall on defense in total defense. They finished 13-1, 9-0 in conference. Undefeated, strong start. You know, for their first four, they beat LSU. They went and beat Clemson in overtime. You know, Virginia Tech. You know, it's kind of when you look at like the middle. Okay, Virginia Tech, Syracuse, Duke. Duke just lost Riley Leonard that game. He was like 50%, not even. And then they went and beat Miami, and then in North Alabama, our alma mater, or mine, excuse me, they lost Jordan Travis to a horrible injury. And you hate seeing that shit against an FCS team. You know, I guess they're FBS now, but you know, it's sad to see that late in the season. And then they had to go play their backup quarterback. They had to then play their third string quarterback, you know, after the Florida game. So they did awesome finding a way to win those games through the diversity the adversity that they went through. And I mean, I guess you could say that, but oh Jesus, but yeah. So either way, I felt bad for them when they got left out of the playoffs. We can talk about that ad nauseum. But then they ended up losing and getting their just butts whipped by Georgia because the whole damn team sat out. So I was kind of conflicted, A- or an A. Oh, wow, like a 4-point difference. You know, it's not that much. I gave him an A just because it's still a hell of a season, 13-0. I mean, they're right on the cusp of being in the playoffs. You know, so I can't punish them for that. But losing to Georgia the way they did and all that, that was upsetting to me for how that team, you know, that's what you got on Florida State.
I went with an A as well. They played really well throughout the season. And now they had a lot of close games, and I gave them a lot of shit for it throughout the season. But I'm at that point where I have to say, you know, good teams do find ways to win.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean there aren't repercussions for it. You know, sometimes people deserve to be slapped in the face. It doesn't mean you don't get penalized for it. And when you struggle week in and week out with the talent that they have, you know, that does bother me. And which, you know, Bama did the same thing, but I held them accountable for it. And with Florida State, the Boston College struggle, the Clemson struggle, you know, they beat LSU handily, but then we saw what LSU was defensively throughout the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the teams that they beat early on just throughout the season, the wins got less and less impressive as you see what some of those teams really were. But they did go undefeated. They did get snubbed the playoff spot. And with the Georgia loss, I don't care that the team sat out. That to me is a locker room issue. And that's just, I don't like that. I think it's wrong. I think it's bad to do to your fans. I think it's wrong to do that to your teammates, to your program. And, you know, if you're snubbed, that it is what it is at that point. I don't see why you lay down and just get obliterated by Georgia and not put an effort in to try to win that game. That's what kept me from giving them an A+. But I do believe that they were one of the top 5 teams in the nation, and they had every right to be in the playoff. Mm-hmm. I don't know that they would have won, but they definitely could have contended for it because Jordan Travis was a good quarterback. They did have elite receivers, and that front 7 was phenomenal throughout the year.
Yeah, defense was nasty.
Their defense was very good. So, you know, it's one of those things we have to go to bed at night wondering what would have happened. We'll never know. and those guys are moving on to the NFL. We're not going to get to see them again. So it is what it is. I would have liked to have seen them played a team like Georgia and see what they were truly capable of, but we did. They took that from us. So A.
Yeah.
A minus. That's it for me. I mean,
just remember, A minus is still an A. All right,
it's still an A,
yep.
and I'm putting them into the same category as Ole Miss and some other teams. More to come when we do our other ones. You'll see, but they did get snubbed. I 100% agree. I did not agree that they should have been left out. I also, however, am giving you Florida State the A minus for the simple fact is that you can't pull up your big boy pants and play a damn football game just because you want to go cry in your room alone. It really is quite annoying. Like, it is the most crybabyish thing I've ever seen an entire team do. And that is while I really do like him and he is a top 10 coach, 100%, it is a direct reflection of Mike Norvell's leadership skills with that team. And that's really what it comes down to. This is a team grade. So overall, this season and the grade that I give this season and the way the team performed on all 14 games, not just the 13-0, but that last one that actually matters, the last one to finish off the season strong, that one is what got you the A minus.
Yeah, I think we all feel that same way about, not showing up for it's a New Year's Six bowl, man. Like, get over yourself, get over the pain of it, and show out. But others feel differently. I get it, whatever. But for me, I'd want to see my team show up and not get smoked like that. Either way, great season by Florida State. It's shitty, but let's roll on. Norvell's going to continue to do what he's been doing at Memphis and everything else. He's building programs. He's proven that. Let's see if he keeps that trend. I think they're in a good spot to make the playoffs in 2024. But we'll talk about that.
They had a great portal.
Yeah. Roll Tribe, basically. They Bama South. We'll talk about that on an upcoming 7-on-7. But guys, that's our grades for the ACC. I know we had a lot to talk about the ACC this week. I'm kind of surprised we talked more about them than we did about the SEC, it felt like. But it's just an interesting conference. So, guys, again, we appreciate you watching. Please make sure you share, you subscribe, all that good stuff. Check our social medias. Go on to our link tree. It's on our bios on all of our social platforms. But the biggest thing, help us, subscribe, tell your buddies. And if you want to talk, holler at us. I'm active on Twitter all the time. The guys are on YouTube, Facebook. So hit us up. Again, thank you. Look for the 7-on-7s. We're going to talk a little more ACC this week. And, more content coming your way very soon. Boys, anything else before we kick it off?
Just smash that like button, boys and girls. Smash that like button. It helps our show out quite a bit.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one.